You good?
You ready to go?
I am fan-freaking-tastic ready to go.
Oh my God. Jacob Board, do you know what time it is?
Game time!
Woo! Let's drop the pod! Rock music, inspiring lyrics. Solo and mild reference to a thing we all know. Woo! That might be my most creative intro yet.
Well, what a way to kick off season 2.
Abso-fucking-lutely. Jacob Ward, I need you to know many things, but in this particular moment, just this one thing.
Yes.
I'm a man of simple pleasures, alright?
Simple pleasures, right.
Alright, I want a good drink, alright? I want it to be savory.
Okay.
And in a tall glass. I want my cat or a pet around, alright? I really like me some kitties and puppies. I want good company.
Good.
And I want me some puck. Drop me some puck already.
I mean, the puck technically dropped 2 nights ago, so does that count? Can I give you that?
Yes. Yes, you can.
No, hockey is back and all is right in the world and nothing can be wrong and it's fantastic.
Oh my gosh. So let's jump right into it.
Let's do it.
But first, before we talk about what we anticipate, let's talk about what we experienced. And I don't really remember any of June or July. I mean, that's all just a blur to this Rangers fan. So let's talk about the Blues offseason.
Okay.
Jacob, why don't you tell us what you thought of it and what you expect moving forward?
It had its highs and it had its lows. The biggest deal was landing Paul Stastny for 4 years, $28 million. Not a bad contract, not a great contract, but hey, Blues needed a first-line center, a second-line center. Paul Stastny's the guy. He's going to help us move the puck around, and I'm super excited to see how he does in the 81 games remaining of the regular season. So, I mean, start off with that. Absolutely big move. I really like the signing of Chris Butler. He is now about the 7th D, but he's also a St. Louis guy like Paul Stastny, and so I think having a couple of hometown guys on the team is something that the Blues are definitely going to benefit from. And Chris Butler's not a bad defender. I mean, I know that he's down in Chicago right now, but can move the puck well. He's physical. He's a big guy. So, I mean, I really liked him. Negative side was losing Vladimir Sobotka to the KHL, and that is still a little bit of a wound for the Blues fans because we were offering him 1, 3, and 5-year deals with $3 million on the table. The arbitrator awarded the Blues a 1-year, $2.8 million contract. So, I mean, we were giving him fair money, but he decided to bounce the KHL for $4 million a year when the money transfers and all that stuff. So it's a little bit frustrating to see that he didn't want to stick with the team and he just wanted to go home and wanted to go back to the KHL. And then finally, Schwartzy. Having Schwartzy hold out, well, not necessarily hold out, but just not having the Blues not really view his contract as an important one. And he's thankfully signed for, I think, 2 or 3 preseason games left. And so he got his legs under him a little bit and he was able to make the starting roster. But I don't know, I would have rather him get signed earlier rather than as late as he did. But overall, I'm giving the Blues a B+ for their offseason because I think, landing Butler and Stastny along with Yuri Laterra, making sure that he came over from the KHL. I think that's a huge move, and so I'm very, very excited for the Blues this year.
Fucking sounds like it, yo.
Good.
Well, I do have to ask you about the goaltending situation. And
of course.
It's really the only eyesore in St. Louis. So please, just talk to us about the goaltending situation.
Yeah, so Army brought in Ryan Miller at the trade deadline last year, and you would think Miller would perform better than he did in Buffalo. He stayed about the same until about the last 6 to 10 games of the season when they lost the final 6, and he did not play well. And in the playoffs, he did not play well, and it was just unfortunate that the Blues were not able to get more out of Miller because he seemed to be the final key of the puzzle. And now the Blues re-signed Brian Elliott to a 3-year deal, so he'll be in St. Louis for a little bit longer. And the Blues have brought up Jake Allen, who a bunch of fans, myself included, have been saying give him a chance because this kid's going to be special. So we definitely do not have the most reliable goaltending. I am still not totally sold on Brian Elliott. I think he's good, but I don't know if he's able to completely house the full workload of a starter. And I know that if he was thinking about moving on because he was not sure about coming back to the Blues if he wasn't going to be get a fair shot at the starting job, and he has it right now. So I'm not sold on it, but I like where we're at. I'd rather have Brian Elliott and Jake Allen than Frederik Andersen and John Gibson because those are two guys with very, very little experience, and at least Elliott has been in the league for a while. But my bold prediction for the Blues this season is that Jake Allen will be the starter by February. That is my bold prediction for the Blues this year.
I don't think you're going out on too much of a limb there, but
I know a lot of people don't, but at the same time, it's like, again, he's the rookie. I mean, a lot of people think that Jake Allen is good or Brian Elliott is bad, but the whole point is that, I mean, how often do teams that the Blues are arguably a Stanley Cup contender, depending on if you think that or not. And how often do you have a Stanley Cup contender where a rookie is considered the starter and the best option over the starting goaltender, which is the experienced guy, and many people think it's going to happen. Like this is the first time I know of where a team is really, where the Blues, I mean, they're not, again, putting all their chips in Jake Allen, but a lot of fans seem to be thinking that the Blues are putting a lot of chips in that basket.
And rightfully so. Hot prospect versus the guy who's been the on again, off again 1B / backup on a team that has had a lot of regular season success and just about no postseason success. So,
yep. Not
to be too cliche, but that's kind of where you're at right now.
Oh, I know it is, and that's the unfortunate thing is that, I mean, we as Blues fans, we know that we can't. I mean, well, the regular season matters. I mean, we know that that's not what we're playing for. We're really playing for April, May, and June, and it just sucks that it always seems to come down to goaltending. I mean, the Blues haven't had solid goaltending since, I want to say, Curtis Joseph and Grant Fuhr back in the 90s. That was the last time they really had solid goaltending. And you always hear about the big name goaltenders like Osgood or Hasek or Wah or Quick or Lundqvist or all that stuff. And very, very rarely do you ever hear about these star-studded goaltenders that ever were in St. Louis.
Roman Turek!
Oh my God, Roman Turek was awful. Awful, except for the 1 year he decided to play out of his mind and the Blues won the President's Trophy. And what happened? He shits the bed against San Jose in 7 games. I hate Roman Turek so much.
More than Ryan Miller?
Yeah, because Miller was just bad. But like, again, we went for it. We bought into it and it just didn't work out. Like, that's fine. But I don't know. I mean,
okay.
It's just frustrating. It's frustrating.
All right. Well, hopefully the season won't be too frustrating for you. So the Rangers offseason wasn't much of an offseason. There weren't a whole lot of moves to be made, so I can't really talk about what we did or didn't do. I was looking at Cap Geek last night with my buddy after it was announced that Dan Boyle had a broken hand and he'd be out 4 to 6 weeks. Now, we're recording this on October 10th at like 4:30 in the afternoon Eastern. This is so retroactively putting it because when Dan Boyle signed, I said to myself, well, he's not making a ton of money and there's really no such thing as a bad 2-year contract, which is what Dan Boyle signed. 2 years, $9 million. And I don't think we're going to terribly miss Brian Boyle. We are going to miss him, but it's not like we're losing a player that you can't replace. Mm-hmm. We're going to miss Anton Strawman the most. And the reason being is that he was a lower tier first pairing defender or an upper tier second pairing defender who's a righty and can play in all 3 zones excellently. and we're missing that. And now instead we have Kevin Kline, and the common thread is these guys are all righties. Kevin Kline is an average defender at best. He's going to make $2.9 million, another handful of seasons. I believe it's 4. It's not in front of me. And so if you put 2.9 to 4.5, you get 7.4. What did Stroman sign for? About 4.5 over the next 5 seasons. Again, it's not right in front of me, so if I'm off by a little bit, please forgive me. But if you can have a choice, who do you rather have? The combination of Boyle and Kline or Anton Stroman? Well, ideally you have Anton Stroman, but that's not what happened. And so what the Rangers have is a team that is slotted for their strengths, which is really good. Teams that succeed at the bare minimum have people that are slotted for their strengths. Nobody playing over their head.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very confident about the Rangers. And I'm very excited for the Rangers. You know, perhaps our best player overall, Rick Nash, had the worst season of his career since he was a teenager.
Yeah.
And last year, with his injuries, especially his concussion, he never seemed comfortable on the ice. He never seemed sure of himself. He reminded me of watching Eric Lindros a whole lot.
Okay.
You know, when Lindros was a Ranger, just to be specific. There was a lot of tentativeness, and then there was a lot of remodeling one's game around that tentativeness. So remain effective, remain a quality player, but it's not why you have said player. In any event, what I'm really excited about for the Rangers, be that as may on the blue line, is I'm really excited about the youngsters that are coming up. And then some of the younger guys that are going to get their second full taste at the league. So Matt Zuccarello, who led the Rangers in scoring with 19 goals and 59 points last season, he is going to have his opportunity to really put his stamp as an NHLer. Now, certainly he's had this all along, but your sophomore season, when you're already in your lower mid-20s, that's your opportunity. That's your opportunity to say, I belong here. It's a lot of what Benoit Pouliot did last year. Now he got a nice contract in Edmonton. Anthony Duclair and Kevin Hayes, I am so excited to watch. Same as with Jesper Fast. These guys, and JT Miller, but I'm starting to sour a little bit on Miller. He's only like 21, so it's not that big a deal. Well, it's true.
Right.
But the 3 guys I mentioned first are just dynamic players who are clearly able to think along with the game. Now, whether or not they're able to take their thoughts and turn it into action remains to be seen. Duclair has a professional shot. And he has the level of professional shot where he's able to shoot before you realize he's going to shoot. Do you know what I mean by that?
Oh, yeah, I definitely know what you mean.
Okay, cool. Kevin Hayes is even less proven, but Kevin Hayes is the kind of guy who understands how to use his body as well as think along with the game. He is a large man, about 6'4". Some guys like Brian Boyle, who are 6'6" or more, don't really learn how to utilize their bodies to their fullest extent. And that's really unfortunate. Now, Boyle is still one of the best, if not the best, defensive forwards in hockey, and he has been for years now. Kevin Hayes, hopefully, can take his size, take his strength, and mix it in with intelligence that he clearly has. And it might take a few years to fully crystallize, but if he's able to do that, you're talking about a guy who's easily a second-line center. I mean, there's nothing not to be excited about that. And Jesper Fast it reminds me a lot of a young Carl Hagelin. You know, your classic second or third line winger who has a lot of speed, defensively responsible. He's not gonna ever break your bank. He's never gonna go to an all-star game. He's gonna be a career solid player that every team is gonna enjoy having, so long as you understand that he's not gonna score 30 goals. He's not going to register 40 or 50 assists, but he's going to be reliable in every zone, and you just have to figure out how to best utilize him. That's great. Are you kidding me? Especially for a team like the Rangers, who spends to the cap every single season. Yeah, that's kind of all there is to the offseason. A little bit on the blue line. Hope re-sign Mark Stahl. He has a year remaining on his contract, and then the rookies.
Yeah. I was going to ask, how do you feel? I mean, this is the Rangers are now in year one of a 2-year span where they have to sign a lot of different people. And how do you feel they did in that first year with like the possibility for a large turnover?
I mean, they just pushed it down the road, right?
Right.
So what did they do? Okay, well, for 2014, they did great. For 2015 and beyond, it really does remain to be seen. Now, Derek Brassard is going to make $5 million in the next 5 seasons, including this one. Zuccarello is going to probably start at $4 million next year as a UFA. But Marty St. Louis is coming off the books. Let me rephrase that. He's a UFA at the end of the year. We'll see what happens with him. Stepan, Kreider, Carl Hagelin, they're all going to be RFAs within the next offseason or two.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this was a great opportunity for Derek Stepan, and it's not that it's passed, but it's just gotten off to the wrong start with a broken fibula to really step up and make that Ryan O'Reilly money.
Mm-hmm.
He still can. You know, he's an Olympian, been our number one center. He's capable of maintaining that role. He's in his mid-20s.
Yeah.
You know, just to narrow down my response and answer your question, what do I think? I think that all they did is they kicked it down the road. So there's no opinion to have. It doesn't look good when 11 players are signed to $45.1 million for next season. Mm-hmm. That's only $23.9 million in cap space if the cap doesn't adjust at all next season. Hopefully we get a few more $1 million to work with. That really may be the difference in keeping Hagelin or not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But really, like, this is a show me year.
Right.
And we need to see what the cap is like next year. I'm sorry, I don't have a firm answer because there's nothing to say just yet.
No, that is an answer.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep. So then how do you feel about the Rangers? Do you feel like they're one of the top contenders to represent the East out in the Stanley Cup Finals?
Oh, absolutely. There's 5 teams. I mean, again, we're talking on day 3 of the regular season. But the 5 Eastern Conference teams that we should expect to be contenders are the Rangers, Pittsburgh, Boston, Montreal, and Tampa. All 5 of these teams could crack 100 points during the regular season. All 5 of these teams could crack 50 wins.
Yep.
I fully expect to go back to the Eastern Conference Final. I fully expect to represent the East. I fully expect to win the Stanley Cup.
Good.
Look, I'm a Ranger fan. I'm a very confident Ranger fan. Let's put shit in perspective here.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a legitimate thing. I mean, that's fine. But I mean, I agree with you. I think the Rangers are definitely a top 5 team in the East, and they definitely have a legitimate chance to go deep into the playoffs.
I'm interested to see how we replace Dan Boyle, and we called up Mike Kostka, at least for the immediate future. So
I like it.
Yeah, so that's the physical manifestation of how he's going to be replaced on the roster. But now how does Dan Boyle's time get redistributed? You know, Dan Girardi and Ryan McDonough played almost half the game last night. I'm fine with running them out there that much. It's just that I don't want to have to do that.
Right, I got you. I understand.
In a non-overtime game.
Yeah, that is a little bit much. I mean, Ryan Suter puts up ridiculous numbers, and you don't want to see your captain and your arguably your number 1, 2 defenseman out there putting up those same kind of numbers.
So, again, it's only one game. Don't want to dig too deep into it, but Dan Boyle had a very clear assignment: chew up 14 to 17 minutes a game and lead our power play from the points.
Yep.
He will now not be able to do that until about, November, but probably closer to Thanksgiving, depending upon how severe and where the break is.
Yeah. That's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, but this is also the time of season where if you're going to break your hand,
that would be a decent time to do it.
Yeah.
There's never a convenient time to break your hand, but at the beginning of the season is much more favorable than at the end of the season.
Absolutely right. So, that's the Rangers offseason for me in a nutshell. I think that Anthony Duclair has a realistic chance of winning the Rookie of the Year this year.
Ooh,
I also
dark
think
horse
that,
for the Calder.
Right. But this might be the deepest rookie class we've seen in about 10 years. At the very least, for the Rookie of the Year award. How their careers unfold is another conversation. But for this season, it seems as though there's about a dozen guys that can.
Oh yeah. There are a lot of rookies in this year that are going to be able to put up some good numbers and really impact their team.
And so my last point on that is that it's an interesting combination of highly touted rookies like Duclair, who scored 50 goals in 53 games in the Q last year, and guys who were professionals overseas that are now rookies in the NHL, like, for example, Jori Lehtera.
Yep. It'll be very fun to watch that and see how it unfolds throughout the season.
Exactly. So, speaking of things that are fun and that have recently unfolded, let's talk about the Merrick versus Wyshynski reverse fantasy hockey league that we were fortunate enough to be invited into. Yeah, I'm so down to do that. Because I am prepared, I have not the settings, which are important to discuss, to pull up. So okay, now I do. Okay. So we have large rosters. Very large rosters. 2, 4, 6, 7 forwards, 4D, 1 utility, 3 starting goalies, 4 bench, and an IR. Alright, so that was 7, 11, 12, 15, 19, possibly 20 guys on any given roster, 16 teams. The values are this. 2 points for a goal, 1 point for an assist and an overall point, 5 points for a penalty minute, 20 points for a shorthanded goal, 10 points for a game winner, 1 point for a shot on goal, 2 points for a hit for all of the skaters, 3 points for a loss, 2 goals per goal against, and 1 shot per shot against for the goaltenders. This is a zany head-to-head league. And Jacob, why don't you talk to us about the draft? Yeah. So coming into the draft, what we wanted to do was we wanted to get guys who were going to be able to get points in the 3 major point system, which is hits, PIMs, and shots on goal. Because PIMs, 5 minutes, which are 5 per penalty minute, which is absolutely ridiculous. 2 for a hit, and which means like if you get guys that hit a lot, 5 hits equals 10 points, which is great. And then shots on goal. So we wanted to find guys that were hitting a lot, could possibly spend a little bit of time in the box, maybe make a bed there, you never know. And then also get a lot of shots. We started off with the very first overall pick, and we selected David Backes, which I believe is a very smart pick because, again, he's a guy that he racks up PIMs, he racks up hits, and he gets a lot of shots on goal. And then goals and assists, whatever. That's whatever. But we really wanted to embrace the idea of the league, meaning rewarding the worst players in the league. So that we really wanted to win. You heard it here first. David Backes, said by Jacob Ford, a St. Louis Blues fan, one of the worst players in the league. I will smack you via Skype, okay? Okay, but who do we take at number 5? Come on, let's even it out. Okay, we took Ryan Callahan at number 5. Okay. But, we wanted to embrace this spirit of the league, I guess is the better way to do it. It's guys that might not, that they're not the guys that you take first overall in a normal standard draft. And so what we did is our team, our first 5 picks were David Backes, Yaroslav Halak, Dustin Byfuglien or Byfuglien, Steve Mason, and Ryan Callahan. And then going through other notable players, we picked up Johnny Boychuk at pick 129, Tumo Ruutu at 160, Patrick Bordelot at 192. Who we did not realize will miss the first 3 months of the season when we drafted him. I had absolutely no idea that was happening. So I had no idea either. We had both checked his health status. I guess we went to the wrong site. It didn't say anything. Oh well. Whatever. Colin Greening at 224, Benoit Pouliot at 225. But then we decided this league is obviously for shits and gigs. So why not, with our back-to-back final picks, make a couple picks for shits and gigs ourselves? So we decided to take the Grizzly Bear himself, Ilya Bryzgalov. The Grizzly Bear, that's new, I like it. The Ilya Bryzgalov at 288, and then at 289,
the Magic Man himself, Teemu Solani. We decided to go Teemu forever and have him on our roster. So
And we kept him for opening night. We didn't make a move until the second night. So we could have these guys on our official roster.
Exactly. Legitimately on our roster, we have them. So they, on Born to Puck, Ilya Bryzgalov and Teemu Solani are official roster players.
So I want to quickly go over just some of where some guys went.
Yeah, go for it.
Sean Thornton went to Wyshynski.
Wait. First of all, if we talk about anybody's team, we also have to say their team name.
Well, I'm going to name like 3 guys that are going to make you laugh and where they went in the draft, and then let's go over to the team names.
Okay, fair.
Okay. Sean Thornton. He got drafted in round 7 of a 16-round league.
No, 19. It was 19 rounds.
Yes, you're right. 19 round. So, he went in the first third. Marcus Foligno, who is funny for me because he had a lot of hype because he's just the little brother of a very average player in Nick Foligno. And for some reason, Marcus Foligno, who's much smaller in every way than Nick, is beloved. Anyway, he got chosen in the 8th round. I just scrolled past it. By the SV Headless Cats. And SV stands for Stouffville, which is a Marek vs. Wyshynski podcast joke. A couple other guys. Al Montoya got drafted, okay? The understudy for Roberto Luongo got chosen in the 13th round by a team called One Kesticle.
Like Kessel. Kesticle.
In that same round, Mike Brown got chosen by the Headless Cats, followed by Rito Berra by Drew in it Doggy Style. I mean, Lars Eller got chosen in the same round by Pierre's Pillow Talk. I mean, which is my personal favorite of all the team names. I mean, this is just, Patrick Marleau got chosen. I mean, Brian Boyle got chosen. BJ Crombie got chosen. Ryan Suter got chosen.
BJ Crombie got taken? I didn't know that. That's a great pick.
So, Alex Ovechkin, who actually in this league is a fantastic pick for this particular setup.
Yeah.
He got chosen too, but just to go over real quick some of the guys that are still on the waiver wire. Let me pull up last year's stats because it'll be easier to sort that way. 1 second. Sort by points. David Krejci, Jordan Eberle, Jacob Voracek, Stastny, Pominville, Filppula. Guys who, Radim Verbata. Guys who are getting chosen.
Verbata still, we should pick him. We should take him up.
No, he only netted like 651 points last year, 22 PIMs, almost 300 shots, but not even a hit a game.
Oh, okay, then never mind.
I mean, we can look into it later, bud. But
okay.
Let's see what happens. Like Riley Smith is still out there, and we should consider picking him up later. Let's see how he gets utilized first.
Yep. Okay,
but the point is that guys who get chosen in every league are out there, except for this one. All right, let's go over to the team names. Why don't you kick it off?
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, you said pretty much all the good ones.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just reading as it came across.
No, I mean, okay, so there's Honey Nut Chelios, which is a phenomenal Honey Nut Chelios, great name. And then again, our personal favorite is Pierre's Pillow Talk, because we all know that Pierre is one creepy motherfucker, and he loves his pillow talk probably.
Talk about the avatar.
The avatar is, let me get it, it's just ridiculous. It is straight ridiculous. It's a
Photoshop of Pierre hugging Sidney Crosby in the most loving way possible. They are just snuggling each other while standing up. It's so adorable and creepy and
yeah.
What are some of your other favorites?
And then another one is Hockey Pornikorovsky.
Yep.
That's a good one. I think those are my top 3. And then of course Wish sucks at fantasy because he does suck at fantasy.
Drew's arrest record. Double penetration. Karma setters. And one that this is so good, and it's matched by its avatar. The Babcock Gobblers. With a picture of Babcock.
Oh my god, I didn't see this one. The avatar is fantastic. Oh my gosh. It's Babcock with his head photoshopped onto a chicken's body, but they colored it so that way the head like makes sense on the body. Oh, it's so great. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, this is gonna be a fun league.
I'm very excited about it.
Alright. On to more serious things.
Yep.
Other than what our respective favorite teams did, any particular offseason moves catch your eye?
Yes. My favorite, I have been very vocal about this, is my favorite move outside of the Blues has been Danny Heatley signing a deal with Anaheim, because I think it's a very low risk, high reward move, because Danny Heatley could easily put up 60 points playing with Getzlaf and Perry. And I think he's going to look more youthful on that line. I think that he's going to aid both Perry and Getzlaf. And I definitely think I think Anaheim again will have one of the best, if not the best, starting 3 forwards in the league.
I mean, I think you're crazy, but why not?
I'm a big believer in Danny Heatley. I don't know why. I just am, and I really like him, and I think that he is going to have a fantastic year out in Anaheim.
I loved the Olli Jokinen and Mike Ribeiro signing for Nashville, and for one very specific reason, and it's because Nashville is going to be shitty, sticky, farty, smelly this year. To quote Lewis Black. They are going to be a terrible team. And if you're going to bother to be a terrible team, then sign guys to cheap 1-year contracts. They got 1 year for $1 million each. And for a team that has a lot of quality young talent, Seth Jones, Ryan Ellis, Kelly Yoncroc, and they have perhaps the best goalie in the world already in place in Pekka Rinne. Yeah, why not kind of throw on a faux respectable roster for a season and make your way down to the line that is for Connor McHockey?
No, there's already Johnny Hockey.
Yeah, but come on, there's also Johnny Football.
Fair. No, that's the thing though. We can't be going with Connor McHockey.
Okay, what do you want to go with?
I guess we can because it's a different last name. I guess we can.
I mean, what would you rather call Connor McDavid?
The Connor McDavid sweepstakes?
Okay, we can do that. Get your raffles here for the Connor McDavid and Jack Eichel sweepstakes. Nashville, how many tickets would you like? All of them.
If they're even in the Connor McDavid sweepstakes, I think they're going to be on the back end.
Yeah,
meaning
I haven't
they're going to have no
spoken to
real
another person who agrees with me that Nashville's going to be shitty, farty, stinky, smelly.
I've been saying this. I think the 6 teams in the Central, all the Central teams are going to score more points than the 4th best team in the Pacific.
How?
Well, that's the thing. It's going to go one of 2 ways. Either A, they're just going to run train on everybody else and then just beat the shit out of each other in this division, or they're just the Pacific is going to be the bottom half of the Pacific is going to be that bad.
And it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be, but that's what's going to happen because I think that there's a definite tier out in the.
Can Edmonton play good hockey by now? Like,
they should be able to, but no, they're not going to. No.
I guess when you're giving up hat tricks to Mason Raymond, it's tough.
Yeah, it's very tough.
Let's move on to the teams we think will represent the East and the West. Well, we sort of already did the East, right?
Yep.
You don't have any others to add into that mix?
No, I think those 5 were definitely the ones, the top 5. I mean, I think there's really only legitimately 3 teams that are going to be able to represent the West and the East, and I think that, 4.
New York, Manhattan.
No, 3. And then it's Boston, Pittsburgh, and Rangers. I was going to say Tampa, but Boston and Tampa are going to meet in the second round, and then after that, one of them is going to get knocked out. So
I'm okay with this. All right, so now let's talk about the West.
My 4 teams that I think are contenders to represent the West for the Stanley Cup are, I mean, this isn't going to shock anybody. It's Blues, Hawks, Ducks, and Kings. That's what it's going to be. Those are the top 4 because they're the top 4 teams in the West, and it's going to be cutthroat. It's going to be a giant dogfight, but one of those 4 teams will do it. However, I do think that there is one team that is a dark horse, and again, the way they could do it is if they fix their goaltending situation. And I don't know, Minnesota. I think they could be a dark horse to represent the West in the finals because they've got everything else set. The only problem is that they need their defense to mature just a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit. And then if they can figure out their goaltending situation and have a legitimate, solid starter in front of them.
I couldn't have put it better myself. See, I thought you were going to go with San Jose, so I was going to argue that with you, but
Nope. No, higher than 3rd, but they have a legitimate chance of finishing 6th in the league, 6th in the Pacific.
What would be better for San Jose? For them to lose valiantly in the conference finals or to miss the playoffs altogether?
What would be better for them?
Yeah, what would be better for them?
Best
as a franchise?
As a franchise, what would be better for them is to miss the playoffs because they can get rid of Thornton and Marlowe, pick up draft picks, and keep feeding young guys get younger guys to develop and move a little bit closer to the front of the draft so that way they can fill young talent around Couture, Pavelski, and Hurdle.
Earlier in the offseason, I thought for sure Joe Thornton was going to find his way to Manhattan, but the money doesn't work.
Right.
It just doesn't work. Now I think that he could find his way to Long Island or New Jersey, which would just be insane because they have the money, they have the pieces to trade back. Could you imagine if Joe Thornton was between Mike Camilleri and Jaromir Jagr?
Jesus. I just can't. No, I can't. I cannot. It's just such a weird combination. I could see him, though. But that's the thing, though. You have to have New Jersey and the Islanders have to be in a position where they want to go for it and take on that salary and that kind of player to the lineup.
I mean, I think that, especially the Islanders, if they were in that kind of position, that they would do it.
But, I mean, look what happened with Vanek last year.
But there's only 2 seasons remaining on the contract. It's not a long-term endeavor. It's not like you're taking on Jeff Carter's contract.
Right.
So there's 2 more seasons at 6.3, if I remember correctly. Like, yeah, that's a lot of money, but it's not for a lot of time.
Right.
I mean, come on. Joe Thornton and John Tavares down the middle.
That'd be dope.
That's pretty good. Or Thornton, Adam Henrique, and Travis Zajac down the middle. Pretty good. Pretty good. But going back to the West, where do you stand on the Stars? Because I think that they're the team that splits the vote the most.
I think they're going to be a good team. They're going to have they're going to be scoring like none other. The only thing though is that I don't think that I think they make the playoffs. They contend for the number 2 spot, in the Central, but I think they lose in the first round because I think the way I have the division playing out, it goes Chicago, St. Louis, Dallas, Colorado, Minnesota, or Minnesota above Colorado. I haven't decided that. They're going to be the 2 wildcard teams again. But I have Blues and Stars meeting in the first round, and I just think that the Blues defense is going to be able to swallow up the Stars offense. And then just the gap between the Blues defense and the Stars offense is smaller than the gap between the Blues offense and the Stars defense. And plus, I mean, Kari, I like Kari a lot, and I think he's a good goaltender. But then again, it's like the goaltending I think is about on the same level. So that's my thoughts about it. Again, 1 game into the season. And plus, I think what'll really happen though, I think it'll really depend on how the Blues play the Stars. The first time I think will really solidify if I like him or not. But I mean, having Ben and Sagan together, I would love for both of them to be in a Blue Note.
I think that the Stars are one quality defender away from being a lockdown playoff team, and then they're probably a little better overall defense from being a true contender. I mean, they could get hot.
I agree with that.
They could get hot. Somebody can emerge. Blah blah blah. All that can happen, but
right. I agree. I think they're one or two pieces away from being a true Stanley Cup contender.
Well, god damn, once they're there.
Oh, I know. They're going to be so much fun. Like, I wish I would have been able to watch a little bit of the Blackhawks Stars game last night because I heard people on Twitter were saying that it was just an unbelievably fun game.
Yeah, it was. Alright, but let's move on to last night. And last night was, what was it, my friend?
It was the season opener for both the New York Rangers and St. Louis Blues, but wouldn't you know it, the two teams played each other.
Woo! 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 Yeah! Sorry if
Rick
I hurt
Nash
anyone.
being his Blues killer God damn it. Why does it seem like Rick Nash always seems to play well against the Blues? Can you just tell me that? Because I'm getting freaking tired of it.
It's because your goaltending sucks.
I'll go fuck off.
Alright, so give us your quick rundown and thoughts on the game overall.
Overall, first period was not something I was happy with. I mean, giving up 15 shots in the first period alone, like, Jesus. That's not, what was going on? Like, I understand that it's the first game of the season, but still, like, you'd feel like that there should be a little bit more energy than that. But I love the fact that the Blues were able to get two third period goals. I thought that was fantastic. A little interesting that a little unceremoniously Paul Stastny gets his first goal because everybody thought Tarasenko put it in.
Do we have an update on Paul Stastny?
He's apparently fine. I don't know. Hitchcock said he wasn't quite happy with it, but Stastny played the third, so I'd assume he's okay. But again, I mean, people have played on leg injuries. I did not see the knee-to-knee hit, so I can't comment on that because at this point I was in my friend's apartment and her internet was not allowing myself and a Blackhawks fan to watch the game, to watch it on our computers.
And from what I saw on the MSG highlights, which were not favorable to getting a clean look, it looked like a hip check gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I don't trust my replay angles. So.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, yeah, I didn't see it, so like I said, I can't comment on it. It's frustrating for the Blues to lose by letting up a goal 2 minutes left in the third on a 2-on-1. But I mean, Rick Nash played out of his mind. Brian Elliott let in all three goals pretty much in the exact same spot, which was either glove side or blocker side.
Blocker side, above the pad, under the block.
Yeah. So it was his blocker side. On that 2-on-1, I mean, you got Elliott moving from his left to right side. Or right to the left side, I think. Anyway, blocker side, whatever his blocker side was on, and they nailed him there, which was it was a nice goal, beautifully put. I mean, it was a spot where Elliott wasn't going to be able to get to it. It was just frustrating that that's how the Blues season starts and losing with 2 minutes left in the game.
I imagine that was frustrating because it was friggin' awesome on this end. But overall, I thought the game had a fantastic back and forth nature to it after the first. I thought that the Rangers, not manhandled the first, but they controlled the first. And then the remaining 40 minutes of the game, each team took turns at controlling the flow. It was a ferocious game. We saw a fight that I don't think that would be wise to put money on happening. All right?
No.
That
was
TJ Oshie and Matt Zuccarello-Assen throwing down the fisticuffs behind Henrik Lundqvist. And I don't know what it was about, but I do know that the game was chippy. I don't think it was maliciously chippy, but it was chippy. There were some hits from behind that happened along the boards on both teams. Both teams also got called once for diving. And everybody was involved.
What did you think of who do you think won the Oshie-Zuccarello fight?
I mean, it's two different kinds of wins. So Oshie won the fisticuffs, but Zuccarello won the what do you call it? The solace. That's not the right word, but you know what I'm going for because he has to punch like 10 feet upwards just to land it on his chest.
But no, yeah. So the way it started is that I think Oshie caught Zooks with a high stick back in the blue zone. Zuccarello kind of gave him a little cross check from behind, and then they just started yapping at each other and then they skated down and then around the net, and then Zooks just dropped the gloves, and Oshie's like, all right, let's go, and he threw the gloves, and then they were off to the races.
Ryan Reeves was a huge factor. Every time he laid down the hit, I mean, The
Oh, yeah.
TV shook. It
Yeah,
was.
that's my boy Ryan Reeves.
Maybe we should have drafted him.
It was a fun game. It was fun to watch to start the season off with. Again, I would have much rather had a more lighter victory to the ending to the game rather than just kind of sulking like 3 minutes after the game saying, "God damn it, I can't believe I lost to Matt." But whatever, you move on. I woke up today just okay. I had a couple of drinks at the bar to drown my sorrows. But yeah, it was fun. It's kind of like what we've been saying. It's the Blues were back on the ice and all was right in the world.
Before we move on, what do you think of the Chris Kreider breakaway goal?
Didn't see it. So, yeah, I did. No, that was dirty. Oh, that was dirty. That backhand, filthy. That's like an 18-year-old with daddy issues, filthy.
Yeah, we're gonna leave it on that. Alright, buddy, our last topic of the day, Chris Pronger. What do you have to say?
Alright, so for those of you who don't know, there's been a little bit of rumblings underneath in the NHL world that Chris Pronger wants to be hired by the Department of Public Safety, and at the time of the podcast, I believe he was hired, but I'm not entirely sure, so I'm currently looking it up right now. And it is, yes, he is now an employee of the NHL's Department of Player Safety, so he's doing that. However, this is the wrinkle. Pronger is still on the payroll for the Flyers. Because of his contract, he has let me see. I look up cap geek for a second.
Long-term injury reserve.
Right, he's on a long-term IR, which means that his contract does not affect the payroll.
Well, no.
Of the Flyers.
So it doesn't affect the cap. It affects the payroll in so much as what the Flyers are only on the hook for whatever insurance doesn't cover. We don't know how much it does and doesn't cover.
Right. But yeah, his cap hit right now is $4.9 million. But because he's on long-term IR, his contract doesn't go towards the cap, meaning the Flyers win because they have an extra $5 million to work with, and Pronger wins because he still gets that $5 million. However, there's a clear conflict of interest by having Pronger on the Department of Player Safety, and on the Flyers. Because, well, what happens if a Flyers player is getting looked at for a possible suspension? Well, what is he going to be able to comment on it or not? Vice versa, what happens if a player is on the receiving end of a suspicious hit, or what happens if one of the Flyers rivals? What happens when it gets down to the playoff time and the Flyers are fighting for possibly a division title or a wild card? I mean, the Department of Player Safety doesn't have a lot of pull in deciding what happens in the league, but at the same time, there's a lot that they do, and so there's a clear conflict of interest, and I think that Pronger needs to decide if he needs to do one or the other. And if he decides to take the player safety job and retire, then the Flyers are screwed because then they're $5 million over the cap and they have to definitely trade somebody, and they'd have to trade somebody ASAP.
I guess I just don't agree with the conflict of interest hubbub, because most of the Department of Player Safety has former players and former managers on it. So there's an insane amount of potential conflicts of interest. And Justin Bourne had done an explanation last year on his website on The Score, and some of the process involves when a player has too close a tie to another player, when a former player has too close a ties to a current player being tried, they're left out of the loop. And it's as simple as that. They don't rule and they don't submit their opinion on this player. Furthermore, I don't get so worried about collusion this way. I find it unnecessarily demeaning to just assume that a player is incapable of being objective, especially when they're this far removed from their playing days. Just because somebody is currently wearing a sweater you used to wear doesn't mean that you immediately have your heartstrings pulled. And I think that that's a very strong representation of how a fan thinks, and not necessarily how the people involved in the actual decisions think.
I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, I'm going to disagree with you, because everybody has, nobody, I just want to say, I mean, this is going to be nobody's perfectly objective. Everybody has their own bias. And it might not be like, oh, whether we should suspend them or not. It might be, oh, do we suspend them for a game or 2 games, 3 or 5? Do we fine them 1,000 or 10,000? Like, so it's not like, I agree that a player is going to be able to be objective and be able to say, okay, yeah, that's a suspendable hit. But especially when you were on the payroll of a team that you may or may not be given a ruling on, there is still that little bias. And I think that's what it really comes down to. It's not, I understand that Pronger can be left out of the discussions or things like that, but the fact is that somehow any decision Pronger makes is going to come back and affect the league in some way, shape, or form. And he is still getting paid by a team that he is supposed to objectively be reporting on and making decisions that affect that team.
Jacob, yeah. Why can't he just be left out of the loop when it comes to things with the Flyers? Why can't?
I mean, I can, but think about this. So what happens if it's a Blues Blackhawks game and David Backes throws an elbow to Patrick Kane and
I mean, you have your answer from me. Is that I don't inherently take away their credibility just because there's an obvious connection. We didn't talk this way about Brendan Shanahan, Brian Leach, Sylvain Lefebvre, and several others who have worked in the Department of Player Safety. We didn't talk about this way. And Shanahan got the job immediately after he retired.
Right, but again, it's because the biggest thing is that he's not getting paid they're not getting paid by the team, they're getting paid by the league.
But we don't have a quantification of how much involvement Pronger still has with Philadelphia. We don't know. We just know he gets a paycheck. You know, it's optional for a player to announce retirement, to file the retirement papers. That is 100% optional.
Right.
So he's optioned not to forego the remaining $15 million that he's owed. That has nothing to do with the Flyers. That's just a financial gain. The Flyers can't do anything about it.
I mean, yeah,
Nope. They can't.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're still paying somebody, you're gonna want them to do not do what you want, but at least get something in return for paying them $15 million over the next 3 years.
But the Department of Player Safety has the most to lose over all of this. If they hire somebody who's incapable of being objective and fair, that creates a blight on their record and their credibility erodes. That's the worst thing that can happen.
But their credibility can't erode it very far after having Colin Campbell on the DOPS for a couple of years before Shanahan came in.
Well, whatever. We're past that, aren't we? He's not involved in it.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, again, I think especially with the Department of Player Safety, like in a couple of years, I mean, everybody's never gonna be happy with a suspension being chosen. But I would think like after those couple of years where they want to build their repertoire and keep building up like you said, the credibility, I think they would want to stay away from somebody who is still being paid by an NHL franchise.
I mean, I agree with you. I guess I'm not so concerned about it.
It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out because I think that there could be very big ramifications, or I could be completely wrong and there just be not a problem with it whatsoever. But I just think that there's a very interesting dynamic that could happen, and this could set an example for future things to happen, like players being involved in the league somehow and like getting paid by both the league and the team that they play for. And I think it's just a little different. I think it's because the league is supposed to be bipartisan. They're supposed to be objective over all 30 teams, and then somebody has an obvious financial stake in one of the teams. It's just interesting.
That it is. But unfortunately, I think we're out of interesting things to talk about today.
Yep, I agree.